Hi, I'm Noah, 35, and 3 weeks ago I walked into work thinking it'd be a normal Tuesday, until my manager tossed me the bar apron and said, "You're covering everyone tonight. You make more money." I laughed. Thought it was a joke. It wasn't. I work nights at a mid-tier, kinda trashy but still somehow popular bar downtown. It's the kind of place where the drinks are cheap, the regulars are chaos incarnate, and the staff is mostly just trying to survive until their side hustle blows up, or they land a gig that doesn't involve mopping puke. I'm technically the bar back. Stock the fridge, refill the ice, haul the kegs. Low stress, low drama? Or it was. That night, everything broke at once. Chelsea, the main bartender, texted an hour before open. "Emergency, stomach bug. Can't move." Jess, the second bartender, went full radio silence after a passive-aggressive "Fine, I'll come in then" message the day before. And Blake, our sketchy night manager who only shows up to hit on drunk women, decided he had a family thing. So it was just me. "You got this," Marco said, slapping my back like this was a damn pep rally. Marco owns the place. Wears loafers with no socks and thinks having a DJ on Tuesdays is visionary. He pointed at the fully stocked bar. "You make all the tips." I stared at the sea of glassware, bottles, sticky counters, and unfulfilled dreams. "I'm not even trained on the register." "You're smart," he said. "Figure it out." At 5:03 p.m., we opened the doors. At 5:07 p.m., a bridal party of 13 stumbled in. At 5:10 p.m., 2 frat guys ordered 14 shots of Fireball like they were trying to summon Satan himself. At 5:12 p.m., I found out the card machine wasn't working. That's when I started sweating. Not the "wow, it's hot in here" sweat. The "I'm in over my head and this bar might burn down tonight" kind. But I kept pouring. Kept smiling. Kept pretending I had any idea what I was doing. And then around 6:30, just as I was getting into a groove, a familiar voice cut through the music. "Noah? Oh my God! Is that you?" I turned. And my stomach dropped. Standing there in a red dress and heels like she just walked off a movie set was my ex-fiancée. With her new boyfriend. And her parents. And they were here for a drink. And I was the only one behind the bar. Welcome to my nightmare. I plastered on the fakest smile of my life. "Hi, Claire." She blinked, tilted her head like I was an exhibit at a museum. "Wow. I didn't know you worked here." Her boyfriend. Of course he was tall, clean-shaven, button-down tucked into jeans like he just left a business-casual yacht, offered a polite nod. Her mom gasped like I'd risen from the dead. Her dad just looked annoyed, probably that he had to parallel park in our alley. "Are you the bartender?" Claire asked, genuinely confused. "Yes," I said, while mentally screaming, "No, I'm a ghost haunting my poor life choices. I'm covering tonight." She gave me a tight-lipped smile. "Well, that's fun." She turned to her boyfriend. "Noah used to write poetry," she said like it was a diagnosis. He blinked. "Cool." Before I could respond, another dude yelled, "HY bartender." "I ordered 4 Jaeger bombs 10 minutes ago." I held up a finger. "Be right with you, sir." Claire's dad waved a menu. "Do you serve food?" "Only nachos," I said. "If the fryer works." Which it doesn't tonight. Claire turned back to me. "I guess it's true what they say. Everyone finds their level." I don't know what part of my soul that line crushed, but it hit me in the spleen. I'd been up since 9 a.m. Had exactly 1 protein bar to eat, and was 94% sure I was going to get fired for being sober in a place that ran on tequila. I started mixing drinks like a demon, wobbling shakers, slamming bottles, lighting things on fire on purpose. I was in bartender overdrive. One guy tipped me 100 just for knowing how to open a champagne bottle without hitting someone in the eye. Claire stayed. They ordered cocktails. Complicated ones. The kind with mint and muddling and tiny metal strainers that I definitely wasn't trained to use. I made a mojito that tasted like mouthwash and pure regret. But the weird thing was, I was getting good. Fast. People started lining up at my end of the bar. A group of girls said I made the best espresso martini they'd ever had. A guy gave me his business card and said I should come work at his fancy rooftop joint. By 9:15 p.m. My shirt was soaked, my hands were sticky, and I was running off pure spite and lime juice, but I was crushing it. Until the karaoke machine powered up. I forgot Tuesday was open mic night. And of course, Claire's boyfriend grabbed the mic. I'm gonna sing this for my girl, he said, slurring slightly. Claire, babe, this one's for you. Then he started belting Mr. Brightside. Off key. Loud. Drunk. And Claire? She turned her head slowly toward me with the smallest smirk on her face. That's when I made a choice. A stupid, adrenaline-fueled, pride-driven choice. I grabbed the second mic. And said, Duet? The whole bar went silent like the universe hit pause. Claire's boyfriend froze mid-screech, mic still in hand, mouth half open like a drunk statue. Claire blinked at me like she wasn't sure if I was being ironic, heroic, or just suffering heatstroke. The DJ, some dude named Ricky with one AirPod in, leaned into the soundboard with a grin and cranked the volume. Let's do it! Ricky yelled. 2 mics, 1 destiny. I hadn't sung in public since Claire and I broke up at a farmer's market during a fight about sourdough. My heart was pounding like I was about to defuse a bomb. But I was locked in now. Every sad breakup memory, every awkward dinner with her parents, every poetry reading she rolled her eyes at, I poured all of it into those opening lines. Musical note, coming out of my cage, and I'd been doing just fine, musical note. I hit the verse hard. Like my dignity depended on it. The crowd started getting into it, some ironic clapping, a few phones went up. One guy in the corner screamed, This is my divorce song! Claire's boyfriend tried to pick up the second line, but he was flat, mumbling, way too drunk to stay on beat. I looked over at him and did what any emotionally fragile man behind a bar would do in my position. I harmonized around him and steamrolled the chorus. And the place exploded. Suddenly people were dancing, shouting lyrics, raising glasses like this was a rock concert. Someone threw a bra at the DJ booth, might have been clean? Unclear. Ricky started flashing strobe lights he definitely wasn't supposed to use. It was chaos. But controlled chaos. And I was thriving. I hit the final note like I was auditioning for my freedom. Musical note. Jealousy, turning saints into the sea. Musical note. By the time I dropped the mic, people were chanting my name like I was a minor cult leader. Even the angry Jaeger guy was clapping. Claire? She was stunned. Her boyfriend sulked back to their table and started checking Yelp for quieter bars. And then, because apparently the gods weren't done playing dice with my life, the door burst open. And Chelsea walked in. Healthy. Not sick. Not pale. Not apologetic. She looked fantastic, actually, hair done, makeup flawless, dressed like she was on a date. Because she was. She walked in holding hands with Blake, the out-sick bartender, and the family emergency manager. I just about dropped my shaker. They spotted me. They froze. She let go of his hand like it had caught fire. He gave me this slow, sheepish grin that said please don't kill me during happy hour. And then Marco, my boss, walked out from the back, holding a mop like a scepter. He looked at them. Then looked at me. What the hell is going on? He asked. And before I could stop myself, I said, Apparently? I run the bar now. Marco stared at me like I just declared myself emperor of tequila. You run the bar? He said, setting the mop down like he was ready to duel. I gestured to the chaos behind me, every stool taken, people lining up at the bar, tips stuffed into every jar and glass, music bumping, customers cheering like we were hosting the Olympics of breakups. You tell me, I said, grabbing a pint glass and pouring a perfect Guinness pour like I was born in Dublin. Marco did a slow circle. The tip jar was overflowing. A drunk girl tried to hand me a phone number written on a receipt, but it was soaked in something pink and sticky and possibly cursed. Claire was still seated with her parents, watching everything like she was trying to solve a crime scene she secretly liked. Her mom had ordered a second mojito. Her dad was asleep in the booth. Marco finally said, Where's the staff? I smiled. Sick. Emergency. Aliens. Who knows? All I know is I've been doing their job and mine for the past 4 hours. He raised an eyebrow. And the till? I reached under the bar and pulled out the cash drawer I'd been babysitting like a newborn. Organized, logged, receipts stapled. I even made a cheat sheet for drink prices. Marco looked like he'd seen a unicorn. Then Chelsea and Blake came up behind him. Hey Marco. Blake said, voice too smooth. Listen, we can explain. Save it. Marco snapped. You bailed. Together. during a scheduled shift. On karaoke night. Chelsea winced. I didn't think he'd. She pointed at me. Be able to handle it. I didn't handle it. I said. I crushed it. And right then, like the universe wanted to reward me, a guy walked up, slipped me $100 bill, and said, "Thanks, man. You made my sister's bachelorette awesome." That espresso martini changed her life. I nodded, humble as hell, and pocketed the bill like it was legally mine. Blake looked like he'd swallowed a lemon whole. Marco clapped his hands. "You're promoted." "What?" "You're head bartender now. Effective immediately." Chelsea's jaw dropped. "Excuse me?" Blake turned red. "He's a bar back. He doesn't know the systems." Marco shrugged. He didn't need them. He just ran a Friday night solo and brought in triple our usual. I opened my mouth to say something sensible, something wise and composed, but instead, what came out was, "Do I get a raise or just trauma?" Marco laughed. "Both." Then he turned to Chelsea and Blake and said, "You two clock out. Indefinitely." They sputtered. They protested. Blake made a weird threat about knowing people, which made everyone within earshot laugh. And just as they turned to leave, Claire stood up. She walked over to me, holding her drink. "You were always better under pressure," she said quietly. I looked at her, unsure what she wanted from me. Apology? Nostalgia? A free cocktail? "I'm proud of you," she added, softer now. And I said the most honest thing I could in that moment. "Thanks. But I think I'm finally proud of me too." She smiled, almost sad. "Don't waste it." And just like that, she kissed my cheek, turned around, and left with her family. I stood behind that bar, sticky, sweaty, surrounded by drunk strangers, and had one very clear thought. I might be wearing an apron, but this felt like a crown. I should have gone home. I should have grabbed my bag, cashed out, and collapsed into bed with a frozen pizza and the sweet sound of silence. But when Marco handed me the official head bartender keys, something happened in my brain. Some weird cocktail of adrenaline, validation, and the fact that I hadn't eaten a real meal in 14 hours. I felt invincible. Like I could run a full nightclub, start a revolution, or at least finally fix the bar's POS system. So I stayed. I closed. At 2:03 a.m., the last patron staggered out, singing the wrong lyrics to "Shallow." I shut the door, locked it, and turned around to see the disaster zone I now ruled. Sticky floors. Empty glasses. Smeared menus. Confetti from somewhere. Maybe a bachelorette fight? Hard to say. I took a deep breath, rolled up my sleeves, and started cleaning. At 2:41 a.m., while scrubbing a suspicious reddish smear off the bar with industrial cleaner, someone knocked on the back door. I froze. No one ever knocks on the back door. I walked over, cautiously peeked through the tiny grimy window, and felt my stomach drop. It was Jess. Missing in action bartender. Black hoodie. Eyes puffy. Holding a plastic grocery bag like it contained radioactive shame. I opened the door halfway. "You're alive?" I said. She nodded, eyes glassy. "I'm sorry. I messed up. You ghosted a shift and left me in hell." "I know," she whispered. "My ex showed up at my apartment. It got bad. I didn't want to drag it here." That stopped me cold. She handed me the bag. Inside were homemade cookies, still warm. Peace offering. Oatmeal chocolate chip. "I remember you hate raisins." I stared at her. The whole "I'm a boss now" part of me wanted to yell. The tired, empathy-shaped part of me just sighed. "Come in," I said. "I'll make us something stronger than cookies." She followed me inside like a cat that wasn't sure it should be forgiven. I poured us each a drink, her favorite whiskey sour, my favorite overpriced stout. We sat at the bar like ghosts. Jess finally looked up. "You were amazing tonight, by the way. Everyone's talking about it. Like, you're a legend." I laughed into my glass. I sang Mr. Brightside. I don't know if that counts as legendary or unhinged. "Both," she said, smiling for the first time. "You earned it, Noah. All of it." We clinked glasses. And then, because the gods are never done with me, I heard Marco's voice again, muffled from the office. "Hey, Noah?" I turned. "Yeah?" He stuck his head out the door. "We're booked for a private event tomorrow. Big client. Real money. I need you here at 5. I groaned. Dude. I haven't slept. He grinned. Head bartender, remember? I looked at Jess. She smirked. Welcome to the throne, Your Highness. I raised my glass like it was a sword. Long may I suffer. By 4:45 p.m. the next day, I was back behind the bar with half a hangover, a bruised knuckle, don't ask, and 1 hour of sleep courtesy of Jess's emergency stash of melatonin gummies and a single cold shower. I walked into the bar expecting chaos. What I got instead was an event planner. A woman in a headset and power blazer with 3 clipboards and 0 chill, barking orders at the DJ, the caterers, and me like I was one of her unpaid interns. You're Noah? Good. You'll do, she said, eyeing me up and down. You're on signature cocktails. No substitutions. Don't speak to the guests unless they speak to you. Smile. But not too much. Questions? Just one, I said. Am I allowed to blink? She didn't laugh. Turns out, the big client was a tech startup founder throwing himself a divorce party. Not a divorce party. A divorce party. Like, I just signed the papers and now I want champagne and a fire breather. Kind of thing. The guest list? Influencers, rich weirdos, one guy in a full velvet suit, and someone who brought a falcon. The whole bar had been transformed, LED lights, flowers in mason jars, a photo booth with wigs. And in the middle of it all, me, wearing a black button-down Marco found in the lost and found bin, mixing cocktails with names like Goodbye Alimony and The Prenup Paloma. And to my absolute horror, I was killing it. People were throwing tips like candy. One woman offered me a modeling gig. A crypto bro tried to buy my shirt for $200 because he liked the energy. The Falcon guy tipped me in gold coins. Real? Unclear. Then I noticed someone walking in late. Black dress. Red lipstick. Hair pinned up like she belonged in a war film. It was Claire. Again. I blinked. Did she follow me? Was I in a Truman Show situation? She saw me, raised a brow, and wandered to the bar like she just discovered jazz for the first time. Wow, she said. You really are head bartender now. Against all odds. I muttered. Nice party, she said, taking in the chaos. Someone's clearly not bitter at all. Want a drink? Something strong and complicated. I made her a new lease on lime, which involved gin, elderflower, citrus, and a garnish that looked like it came from a wedding centerpiece. She took a sip and sighed. You know, I didn't come here for you. Pretty sure no one ever does. I joked. She stared at me for a beat too long. Maybe they should. Before I could unpack that emotionally loaded bomb, the Power Blazer event planner reappeared and barked. No flirting with guests, Noah. Claire smirked. You heard the boss. She slipped a $20 into the tip jar and disappeared into the crowd. My heart was doing something weird. Or maybe it was just dehydration. Either way, I suddenly understood why bartenders don't date exes, or Falcon people. The rest of the night was a blur of toasts, tears, and someone breakdancing to Adele. But somewhere in the middle of it, Marco leaned in behind the bar and whispered, You're a hit, kid. Starting next week, you pick your shifts. You're my guy now. I blinked. A week ago, I was a bar back who restocked lime wedges and cried on my lunch breaks. Now, I was the guy. I didn't know what the hell was happening to my life. But I did know one thing. I was finally, getting free drinks after close. By the next Friday, I was a legend. Not like actual legend, but bar legend. Urban myth kind of stuff. People came in asking, Is Noah working tonight? Like I was the messiah of mezcal. Some girl on TikTok made a dramatic montage of my karaoke duet with Claire, set to Lana Del Rey. It got 200k views. My mom somehow found it and commented, That's my boy! With 14 exclamation points. So yeah? Things were going weirdly well. Jess and I were tag-teaming shifts. She was solid, funny, sharp, fast. The two of us ran the place like a pair of caffeinated hawks. Tips were high, complaints were low, and Marco actually thanked me. Twice. He even installed a new POS system that worked, which I took as my unofficial sainthood. But I'd be lying if I said everything was perfect. Because Claire kept showing up. Alone. Late nights, after the crowd thinned out. She'd always sit at the end of the bar, order something obscure, and make small talk like we weren't standing on a mountain of unsaid history. It was messing with my head. One night, after close, I found her still sitting there. Everyone else had cleared out. Even the DJ had left. I walked over with a rag and leaned on the bar. "You're becoming a regular," I said. She didn't look up. "Maybe I just like the drinks." I nodded. "Sure. Or maybe you miss watching me spiral in real time." That made her laugh. "You always were dramatic," says the woman who broke off our engagement via post-it note. She winced. "Okay. Deserve that." There was a long silence. The jukebox hummed softly in the background, some slow, soulful jazz that made the whole room feel like a memory. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "I didn't leave because of you." I looked at her. "What does that even mean?" She bit her lip. I panicked. We were 28. Everyone around us was getting married, buying houses, having kids. You had your poetry, your weird startup jobs, your little bar gigs, and I thought if I stayed, I'd never grow up. And now? She exhaled. Now I'm grown up. And I kind of hate it. I didn't know what to say. So I poured her another drink. Neat. We sat in silence. Two people who almost had it all and then wrecked it for reasons they barely understood. "I'm not asking for anything," she finally said. "I just wanted you to know." I nodded. But here's the thing about life. It never lets you marinate in a moment too long. Because right then, Jess burst through the back door. Her face pale. Her voice shaking. "Noah, you need to come outside. Now." I jumped up. "What is it?" "It's Marco," she said. "Something's wrong. He's on the ground." My heart dropped into my shoes. I sprinted outside, around the alley into the dark, and found Marco collapsed on the pavement, one hand clutching his chest. His lips were blue, and he wasn't breathing. Everything after that moment is a blur of panic and barked instructions and pure instinct. I dropped to my knees and shouted his name. "Marco! Marco, hey!" But he didn't respond. Just lay there in his dress shirt, limp, like someone had cut the power to his body. Jess was already on the phone with 911, shaking so hard she could barely speak. I checked for a pulse like they do in the movies, not entirely sure what I was feeling for. My hands were shaking too. There was no one else out there. Just the three of us and the buzz of a city that couldn't care less what was happening in one dark alley behind a bar. I started chest compressions. I didn't think, I didn't breathe, I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Pushing down harder than I thought I could. My arms burned. My knees ached. Somewhere behind me, Claire had come outside too. I heard her gasp, then silence. Even she knew not to interrupt. It felt like hours, but the paramedics got there in 7 minutes. 7 minutes of hoping I was doing it right. 7 minutes of praying this weird, loafer-wearing, cocktail-loving idiot who gave me my shot wasn't about to die on a Friday night behind his own bar. They took over. I stepped back, my shirt damp with sweat, hands smeared with dirt and something worse. One of them looked at me and said, "You probably saved his life." Probably. It wasn't a guarantee. They loaded Marco into the ambulance, lights flashing, and drove off without fanfare. No music swell, no crowd applause. Just gone. The three of us stood there, speechless. Claire eventually reached out, touched my shoulder. "Come back inside." I nodded, numb. We walked in together. Just behind me. Inside, the bar was still. The music had stopped. The lights felt too bright. The smell of citrus and liquor and old wood felt heavier than usual, like it knew something was wrong. Jess disappeared into the back. Claire sat at the bar again, but this time she didn't order anything. I looked around at the place I had almost come to love. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted it anymore. Not without Marco. Not if every shift meant wondering what else was going to fall apart next. I walked over to the bar, wiped down a spotless section out of habit, and said, "I don't know if I can keep doing this." Claire tilted her head. "You mean bartending?" "No. This whole thing. Being the guy who patches it all together. Who everyone counts on to just fix it." I was supposed to be the backup plan. And now I'm the plan. I didn't sign up for that. She didn't say anything at first. Just watched me quietly. Then she said, "You're not the backup anymore. You're the one people trust when it's all falling apart." I laughed bitterly. That's not comforting. No. she said. But it means something. A few hours later, we got a text from Marco's niece, his emergency contact. He was stable. Heart attack. Minor. They got to him in time. He was going to be okay. I cried in the liquor closet. Not because I loved the man, he was still Marco, still the guy who thought putting olives in beer was a cultural twist, but because I hadn't realized how much I was carrying until that moment let me finally set it down. The next day, Marco sent me a text from his hospital bed. You're in charge. Don't burn it down. Also, don't let Ricky DJ Wednesdays ever again. 2 weeks later, I was officially listed as general manager. I got a raise. Real one this time. I hired Jess full-time and gave her the flexibility she needed. I got Marco's blessing to change the cocktail menu, and yes, I renamed one of the drinks. The Post-it Goodbye. Claire laughed when she saw it on the chalkboard. We never got back together. Too much history. Too many dents in the armor. But she still came by sometimes. We talked. Sometimes that was enough. And me? I stopped thinking of myself as the guy who fell into this job by accident. I was the bartender people remembered. The guy who could turn heartbreak into a tip jar. The guy who ran the bar when everyone else vanished. And yeah, I was the guy who made a mean espresso martini while performing CPR between karaoke sets. So no, this wasn't where I thought I'd end up. But it turns out, you don't need a perfect life. You just need a place where you matter. And every now and then, a mic to sing Mr. Brightside at the top of your lungs. That's how you survive. That's how you win.